In the remote, desolate stretches of northern Siberia, a massive drill bit recently ground to a halt after biting through a layer of ice and frozen earth that hadn't seen the light of day since the height of the last ice age. This wasn't a standard oil or gas exploration mission. This was a targeted surgical strike into the deepest, most stable layers of the permafrost, led by a team of elite Russian geologists and microbiologists. They weren't looking for resources, they were looking for time. But when the pressurized seal of the borehole was finally breached, the sensors didn't just record a drop in temperature or a release of ancient methane. They recorded a biological signature that shouldn't exist. Something that had been suspended in a state of perfect preservation for 50,000 years was suddenly awake, and it began to replicate with a speed that defies every known law of modern biology. We are talking about a giant virus from the Pleistocene epoch, a microscopic relic that is so large and genetically complex that it blurs the line between a virus and a living cell. As the team looked at the first high-resolution scans, they realized they hadn't just found a fossil. They had punched a hole into a biological tomb, and the occupant was ready to come out. The Siberian permafrost is often called the world's largest natural freezer. It covers nearly 2/3 of Russian territory, holding within its icy grip the remains of mammoths, woolly rhinos, and prehistoric flora. For thousands of years, this ground has remained at a constant, sub-zero temperature, effectively halting the process of decay. But as the planet warms, this freezer is beginning to fail. Massive sinkholes, known locally as craters to the underworld, are popping up across the Yamal Peninsula. Recognizing the potential for a massive scientific breakthrough, the Russian team decided to get ahead of the natural thaw. They used a specialized thermal drill to reach a depth of nearly 100 feet, targeting a pocket of Yedoma, organic-rich permafrost that dates back tens of thousands of years. When the core sample was pulled to the surface in a vacuum-sealed chamber, the atmosphere in the lab was electric. They moved the sample into a level 4 biocontainment facility, treating it with the same caution you would an alien artifact, using a technique called amoeba baiting, where they introduce ancient samples to modern single-celled organisms. They waited to see if anything would react. Within hours, the amoebas began to change. They were being hijacked. A virus, dormant since the time of the Neanderthals, had recognized a host and successfully initiated its infection cycle. This is what scientists call a pithovirus. But this specific strain, dubbed Siberian X by the researchers, is unlike anything ever documented. It is 10 times larger than the viruses we deal with today, and its genetic code contains over 1,200 genes. To put that in perspective, the viruses that cause common illnesses in humans have as few as 10 genes. The discovery sent a shockwave through the global scientific community. This isn't just about a bug coming back to life. It's about the fact that life can stay viable in a suspended state for an almost indefinite amount of time if the conditions are right. The quantum AI used to sequence the virus's genome found that a significant portion of its DNA is orphan DNA. It has no match in any known database of modern life. It's like finding a book written in a language that doesn't belong to any known linguistic family. This suggests that the prehistoric world was teeming with biological diversity that was wiped out during the Great Thaw, and we are only now getting a glimpse of the ghosts that survived in the ice. But the real mystery began when the geologists looked closer at the soil surrounding the virus. They found traces of manufactured compounds, microscopic metallic shards, and isotopic signatures that usually indicate high-heat industrial processes. Now think about that. This layer of Earth is 50,000 years old. There were no factories in the Pleistocene. There were no refineries. Yet the AI confirmed that these particles were not natural geological occurrences. This has led to a radical and controversial theory. The permafrost isn't just a freezer for animals. It's a record of a lost environmental history. Some researchers are suggesting that these particles were trapped in the ice as a result of a massive, global atmospheric event that occurred long before recorded history began. As the Russian team expanded their search, they deployed ground-penetrating radar around the drill site. What they found beneath the ice was even more baffling. They identified a series of voids, perfectly spherical pockets of air trapped deep within the frozen mud. When they tapped into one of these spheres, they found it was filled with a gas mixture that had a higher oxygen content than our current atmosphere. Inside this pressurized bubble, the prehistoric flora hadn't just survived as seeds, they had remained in a state of metabolic stasis. When the researchers introduced light and warmth to a sample of moss from one of these bubbles, it turned green and began to photosynthesize within minutes. We are talking about plants that lived alongside the woolly mammoth, behaving as if they had only been asleep for a few hours. The implications for medicine and longevity are staggering. If we can understand the chemical cryoprotectants that allowed these viruses and plants to survive 50,000 years without their cells bursting from ice crystals, we could revolutionize the way we preserve human organs for transplant, or even how we think about long-term space travel. The Siberian X virus is the ultimate teacher in this regard. Its protective shell is so durable that it can withstand extreme radiation, massive pressure, and chemical baths that would destroy any modern pathogen. It is a biological survival machine perfected by an environment that was much harsher than our own. However, there is a reason this discovery is being treated with such intense secrecy and fear. If a virus from 50,000 years ago can come back and successfully infect a modern organism, what does that mean for the billions of tons of permafrost that are melting right now across the northern hemisphere? We are reaching into a biological deep time that we are not prepared for. Our immune systems have evolved to fight the threats of today, but we have no memory of the threats of the Pleistocene. The Russian researchers are finding that Siberian X operates on a logic that our modern antiviral protocols struggle to predict. It doesn't just attack a cell, it rebuilds the cell's internal machinery into a massive virus factory, at a scale that is visible under a standard light microscope. The team also used a quantum AI to simulate the potential spread of these ancient organisms if they were to reach the surface. The results suggest that the high-oxygen ancient environment made these organisms incredibly efficient. In a modern lower-oxygen world, they behave like supercharged versions of life. They process nutrients faster, they reproduce quicker, and they are significantly more resilient to environmental changes. We are essentially looking at alpha versions of life that have been reintroduced into a beta world. As the drilling project continued, they hit another layer at 150 feet. The drill bit came up coated in a strange bioluminescent sludge. When the AI analyzed the light emitted by this substance, it found that the glow was being produced by a colony of extremophile bacteria that feed on the energy released by the slow decay of radioactive isotopes in the deep earth. These bacteria don't need the sun. They don't need oxygen. They are a self-contained ecosystem that has been thriving in a dark, frozen world for millions of years. This discovery has changed our understanding of where the biosphere of Earth actually ends. It doesn't stop at the surface. It extends miles into the crust, hidden in the ice and rock. The Russian hole is now a site of intense international speculation. Satellite imagery shows that the facility has been expanded significantly, with new barracks and specialized laboratory modules being flown in via heavy-lift helicopters. There are reports of anomalous seismic activity originating from the site, suggesting that the team may be using pressurized liquids to explore even deeper. Some whistleblowers from the project have whispered about structural anomalies found in the deeper ice shapes that look like geometric patterns or paved surfaces, though these reports remain unverified. What we do know for certain is that the biological samples pulled from the Siberian permafrost are rewriting our textbooks. The Siberian X virus is now being studied for its potential in gene therapy. Because it is so large and can carry a massive amount of genetic cargo, it might be the perfect vessel for delivering complex DNA repairs to human patients. We are taking a frozen fear and trying to turn it into a frozen cure. This is the ultimate duality of scientific discovery. The same thing that could threaten our world might also be the key to saving it. The geologists have also discovered that the permafrost contains a frozen record of the Earth's magnetic field. By analyzing the orientation of magnetite particles in the core samples, they found that 50,000 years ago, the magnetic poles were in the middle of a massive flip. This event, known as the Lachamp excursion, would have bombarded the Earth with cosmic radiation. This might explain why the Siberian X virus evolved such an incredibly tough outer shell. It was a radiation shield. This gives us a clue into what kind of environment our ancestors were dealing with. A world of shifting poles, glowing skies, and giant, indestructible viruses. As the team processed the ancient air trapped in the ice, they found that the CO2 levels were significantly different than we predicted. The AI's climate models, fed with this new data, suggest that the Ice Age wasn't just a slow cooling, but a series of violent pulses of extreme weather. This explains the mass preservation events where we find entire mammoths frozen with buttercups still in their mouths. They weren't just trapped in the snow. They were hit by flash freeze events where the temperature dropped 50 degrees in a matter of minutes. The hole into the permafrost has revealed that our planet's climate is capable of much more erratic behavior than we ever wanted to believe. The Russian government has tightened security around the Yamal site, declaring a 10-mile exclusion zone. This has led to rumors that the team has found something more than just microscopic life. Some satellite analysts point to large excavations that look like they are uncovering solid objects rather than just drilling for cores. Whether these are just unique geological formations or something else remains to be seen. But the focus remains on the biological time travelers coming out of the ice. The quantum AI is currently working on de-extincting the prehistoric flora found in the oxygen pockets. They have successfully grown Pleistocene meadows in a controlled laboratory environment. These plants grow 3 times faster than modern species and produce flowers with colors that don't exist in the current wild. It is a hauntingly beautiful sight, a literal piece of the past blooming in the present. But researchers warn that these plants are also incredibly aggressive, outcompeting any modern plant they are placed next to. It is a reminder that the world 50,000 years ago was a place of extreme competition. Only the strongest and the fastest survived. This aggression is found at every level of the prehistoric samples. The bacteria are more territorial, the viruses are more invasive, and the plants are more dominant. It suggests that as we punch a hole into the permafrost, we are releasing an elite squad of organisms into a world that has softened over thousands of years of relative stability. This is why the biosecurity protocols are so vital. One leak could lead to an ecological replacement event where ancient species displace the ones we rely on today, but the scientists are also finding beneficial prehistoric microbes. They have discovered a type of ancient fungus that can break down complex plastics in a matter of days, something modern fungi haven't yet evolved to do. It appears that in the Pleistocene there were organic compounds that were chemically similar to our modern synthetics, and this fungus was the master of recycling them. This could be a brilliant trick to solve our modern pollution crisis, all thanks to a hole drilled into the Siberian waste. As the Russian team goes even deeper, they are encountering ice lenses, massive sheets of pure, transparent ice that are miles wide. These lenses act like magnifying glasses for the Earth's heat, creating small pockets of liquid water even in the middle of a frozen permafrost field. In these hidden sub-permafrost lakes, the AI has detected movement, not just microscopic movement, but the heat signatures of larger multicellular organisms. This is a discovery that is beyond horrifying for some, as it implies that the frozen world might actually be a hidden world, with an entire food chain operating beneath the ice. What kind of creatures could live in a pressurized, lightless, sub-zero lake for 50,000 years? We don't know yet, but the team is preparing a specialized cryo-probe to enter these lakes. They are calling it the Under Ice Expedition. The goal is to capture the first footage of a living environment that has been isolated from the rest of the world since before the rise of human civilization. The biological data from such a place would be the most significant find in the history of science. The hole has also revealed a strange hum that emanates from the deep borehole. Seismologists have determined that it isn't an earthquake, but a constant, rhythmic vibration caused by the flow of supercooled liquids through the cracks in the lower crust. The AI suggests that the permafrost acts as a dam for a massive underground hydraulic system. By punching a hole in it, we've slightly altered the pressure of the system, causing the hum. This shows how interconnected the Earth's systems are. Even a small drill in Siberia can have resonant effects deep within the planet. As we look at the samples of ice silk found in the core, long, incredibly strong fibers produced by an unknown prehistoric insect, we realize that we are just scratching the surface of the biotechnology the past has to offer. This silk is stronger than Kevlar and more flexible than spiderweb. If we can sequence the genes responsible for it, we could print new materials that would change everything from body armor to surgical sutures. The permafrost is a patent office of millions of years of evolutionary innovation, and we are just now opening the files. But the clock is ticking. The permafrost is melting on its own at an accelerating rate. The Russian drillers might have punched the first hole, but nature is punching thousands more through the thaw slumps and thermokarst lakes that are appearing across the Arctic. The frozen fear is becoming a released reality. We are entering an era where we will have to coexist with the ghosts of the Pleistocene, whether we are ready or not. The quantum AI's final analysis of the Siberian X virus contained a startling observation. It noted that the virus seems to possess a hibernation trigger that is activated by specific environmental cues. This means the virus isn't just active or dormant. It is waiting. It is a biological time bomb with an incredibly sophisticated timer. The researchers are now trying to find out what that timer is set for. Is it temperature? Is it a specific chemical in the atmosphere? Or is it the presence of a certain type of host? This intentionality in a virus is a concept that is difficult for us to grasp. We tend to think of viruses as random accidents of nature, but at the scale of 50,000 years, random doesn't survive. Only the strategic does. The punched hole has shown us that the prehistoric world wasn't just a place of big animals and cold weather. It was a place of high-level biological strategy. The Russian team is now working with international partners to create a global permafrost vault, where these ancient samples can be stored and studied under international supervision. They realize that the Siberian X discovery is too big and too dangerous for one country to handle alone. It requires a planetary response. We need a United Nations of the Pleistocene to manage the re-emergence of these ancient life forms. As we finish this look into the Siberian hole, we have to ask ourselves, are we prepared for what else is down there? The drill is still turning, and the ice is still talking. Every new meter of depth is 1,000 years of history. We have found viruses that rebuild cells, plants that outcompete anything modern, and shards of metal in 50,000-year-old Earth. The past isn't just a memory. It's a physical force that we have just unleashed. The Siberian X virus is currently being tested on synthetic organoids, human-like tissues grown in a lab. The early results show that the virus is surprisingly compatible with certain types of human neural cells. This doesn't mean it's a threat, but it means it has an affinity for our biology that hasn't faded in 50 millennia. It's like a lock and key that have been separated by an ocean of time but still fit perfectly when they meet. This is the mystery that keeps the researchers up at night. The bioluminescent sludge and the sub-permafrost lakes are the next frontier. If we find multicellular life there, it will be the greatest discovery since the identifying of the deep-sea hydrothermal vents. It would prove that life is more resilient, more creative, and more enduring than we ever gave it credit for. We would have to admit that we don't just live asterisk on asterisk the Earth. We live on a crust that sits on top of a living planet. Russia's punched hole has changed the game. It has moved the search for alien life from the stars to the mud beneath our feet. Because a virus that hasn't existed for 50,000 years is as alien to us as something from Mars. It comes from a world that had a different atmosphere, a different magnetic field, and a different biological rule set. We are the explorers of our own prehistoric past, and the further we drill, the more we realize how little we know. Stay focused on these developments, because the Siberian X story is just the beginning. The permafrost contains millions of years of data, and we've only just read the first few pages. The truth is frozen, but it's melting fast, and what comes out of the ice will change the history of biology forever. We are at the dawn of the Pleistocene Renaissance, a time when the ancient and the modern will have to find a way to live together on a warming planet. The hum of the earth, the flicker of the ancient flowers, and the pulse of the giant virus are all part of the same song, a song the Earth has been singing since the long before we arrived. By punching that hole, Russia has finally let us hear the music, and it is as beautiful as it is terrifying. The secret of the ice is out, and there's no turning back. We are moving into a future where the past is more present than ever before. As the Russian researchers prepare their next expedition into the Yamal craters, they do so with a new sense of humility. They went in thinking they were the masters of the drill, but they realized they were just the children of the ice. The Siberian X virus is still there in its containment chamber, a silent witness to the changing world. It has survived the mammoths, it has survived the Ice Age, and now it is here to see what we will do next. The hole is a bridge. It's a bridge between the world as it was and the world as it is becoming. And as we cross that bridge, we have to be ready to meet whatever is coming from the other side. The permafrost is no longer a static part of the landscape. It is a dynamic participant in our future. Keep your eyes on the north, because the shouts from the rooftops that the ancient text spoke of are being echoed in the clicks and hums of the Siberian ice. The discovery of the manufacturing isotopes in the Pleistocene layer is the final mystery box. If the AI is correct, and those particles are the result of an intelligent event, then everything we know about human history is wrong. We might not be the first civilized species to deal with a changing planet. We might be following in the footsteps of a forgotten era that was also silenced by the ice. But that is a story for another time. For now, the focus remains on the Siberian X and the living world that we have just woken up. Thank you for exploring this deep freeze discovery with us. The world is full of wonders, and many of them are hidden just beneath the surface. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember that when you punch a hole into the past always has a way of punching back. The frozen fear is just a new reality in disguise, and together we will find a way to understand it. The ice is melting, and the stories are coming out. It's time to listen.